Yeah.
Right, today is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. We are calling the regular meeting of the Albany Planning Board to order. We have today a public hearing and meeting joined by my colleagues. I'm Chris Ellis, Chair of the Board, joined by Rachel Bryster, Martin Hall, and Glenissa Gilliard on our planning board, as well as our council and staff members from the department and city hall. We don't have the longest of agendas today. It's broken into several components, including a consent agenda, as well as our meeting and hearing where we'll review a few projects. Planning board members, if you have already seen the agenda, if there's anything out of order, please let me know. If not, we will move forward with the agenda as published to the public. Good? All right. First, we have three items on our consent agenda. And we've worked with council, provided us some best practices on consent agenda, and we're going to try to stick to those as much as possible. For those participating in the audience, usually want to keep things on the consent agenda that are fairly common, routine, and non-controversial, have a certain level of full transparency. There's an opportunity to remove if there needs to be discussion by board members, and we want removal. The agendas are always published and printed and shared, so we have public access. We're very clear on the procedures, and it will be documented for future access. So I'll read the three projects that we have on the consent agenda and call for a motion from the board. And ask for any comments from staff on these, and we can approve and move on. The first project is number 00357, which is a development plan review for 60 Colvin Ave. The applicant is Reagan Development, mixed-use neighborhood center, construction of a 3-story, 57,093 square foot mixed-use structure containing 49 dwelling units and approximately 4,809 square feet of retail space, and a 2-story, 17,016 square foot dwelling multi-unit containing 14 units. Our action for the agenda would be that we would give the New York State Housing Community Renewal Agency as acting consent to them as to act as the lead agency. Project number 2 is development plan number 0202 and 0204 and conditional use permit 0070. We'd be doing 124 through 133 Henry Johnson Boulevard, 238, 241, 242, 248, 250 First Street, 180, 331, 333, and 337 Clinton Ave. The applicant is home leasing, and the proposal is the construction of a 42,903 square foot mixed use building to accommodate 38 dwelling units and 2,550 square feet of general retail space at the corner of Henry Johnson and First Street. The construction of 5 dwelling townhouses containing 2 dwelling units in each along Henry Johnson Boulevard. Demolition of existing building at 180 Clinton Ave, and construction of 4 dwellings, townhouse containing 3 dwelling units each. The action for us would be secret determination of significance. And the third and final project on the consent agenda, project number 00536, application for development plan review. And there are quite a bit of properties here. This is the big project with MDG development. So it's 85 through 89, 129 through 133, 137 through 145, 151, 155, and 159 Broad Street, 117, 134 through 138, and 145 through 147 Clinton Street, 10, 23, 33, 38, 44, 47, and 51 through 53 Second Avenue, 325, 329, and 331 South Pearl Street, 1, 4, 8 through 16, 15 through 35, 24 through 28 Tuna Street, 29, 33 through 35, 36, 49 through 57 3rd Avenue, and 20 Stevens Street. The applicant is MDG Development, and we again be looking at a major development plan review for those, and again the action for those construction of 62 single, 2, 3, and multi-unit dwelling structures totaling 166 dwelling units to declare us as we want to be secret lead agency declaration. That's our action. So those are the 3 consent agendas. Wanted to share those here, outline and read through them to give everybody a chance to comprehend. At this point, are there any comments from staff on these? No? Okay, good. Is there a motion to advance these through our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Board Member Gilliard and second by Mark Hall to advance the consent agenda. Board members, are there any questions on the motion?
No.
Absolutely. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion has carried unanimously. All right, so thank you for that. We did originally have one item on our hearing agenda that was withdrawn per the applicant's request. That was for 45 First Street. I don't know if there's anybody that's here sitting for that one, but that was withdrawn. 45 First Street. Okay. Next, we're moving to our meeting agenda. First up is project number 00564, and this is an application for conditional use permit development plan review for 70 and 108 through 114 Grand Street. Community Builders is the applicant. The applicant here. Yeah. I'm sorry. So the record project number 568. We have 10 minutes. Is there a slide deck for this?
Yes.
Okay, 10 minutes to move through your slides. We'll move to the board to see if there are any comments, and then to staff as well as see if there are any comments submitted and/or from the members of the public. Floor is yours.
Okay, thanks for having us. My name is Bennett Balmer. I'm the project manager for our mansion initiative. And I'm joined by my coworker, Kyle Skowski, and our architect.
Mia Shetty from Springline Design.
So the mansion initiative we have, in terms of the PowerPoint, should I just tell you when to switch alright, we can go on to the next slide. Alright, so project location. So the Mansion Initiative is located on Grand Street and Ash Grove between Madison and Ash. It is a project, an affordable housing project by the Community Builders. The Community Builders is a national not-for-profit affordable housing developer. We have offices throughout the Northeast, and we have around 14,000 apartments spread across several thousand properties that we manage and have developed. Here in the Capital District, we have a fairly strong footprint as well. We have projects in Schenectady and Cohoes and in Troy. And we have the Mansion Initiative here in Albany. The Mansion Initiative, we first invested in 11 townhouses on Grand Street about 20 years ago. They were all mostly vacant historic structures that we renovated and made into healthy, affordable housing for Albany residents. You can go to the next slide. You can go to the 70 grand, okay. So the brief overview of the project is we now have these 11 townhouses that we are slating for a moderate rehab, and there's roughly 40 units in those. The other two components of our project are we have been picking up other vacant properties on this block, and they are slated for gut rehabs and greening. And then obviously there was a very awful fire a year ago. The mayor mentioned it in her State of the City address in January. And so there are 4 lots. We had owned 112 Grand Street. It burned down along with 108, 110, and 114. Last week we purchased 114, and we are in purchase and sale agreements with 108 and 110. And we hope to pick those up as well. But we will be doing a new construction component as well, in addition to the gut rehabs of the vacant properties and a moderate rehab of the 11 properties. The full project will have 63 units. They will be deeply affordable, and they will also be very green. So we're looking at exiting direct on-site fossil fuel usage for these properties. Moreover, we are looking to go to the state of New York for our affordable housing financing. The round should be opening up sometime this summer, most likely sometime after July 4th through possibly after Labor Day. We don't control that schedule. But as part of the development, we have 70 Grand Street, which will be new construction. One of the consistent input we would get from our residents is they wanted a central location to congregate, to have parties, and also to enhance the safety on the block. So we are proposing at 70 Grand Street a tenant managerial hub. It will house TCB employees on the 2nd floor in our offices, and then on the 1st floor it will have the tenant hub. So the tenants will have, for the first time, have laundry, a laundry room. They'll have a community room, and they will have a fitness room. Moreover, we have been in talks with Albany Police, and they're interested in having a community outreach office. Nianti, do you have anything on 70 grand? So we're joined by our architect, and do you want to go over any of the details and how it's going?
Yeah, so the proposed building is a 2-story building, and the exterior wall assembly for the building, we wanted to make sure it matches the aesthetic of the street. So we proposed brick veneer with wood studs that would cohesively blend with the rest of the architecture on the street. And the proportions of the windows that we provided, which will come in the following slides of the elevations, match the window proportions of the adjacent buildings as well. As Bennett mentioned, the 1st floor was predominantly for laundry room, the community hub spaces there. There's a fitness room, there's a small police substation, and then the 2nd floor floor houses all of TCB's office spaces. So we provided a sort of separation of the stairwell as well. So there's no interaction there's a separation between the offices and the community spaces on the first floor level. The offsets that we provided on the site, are 5 feet towards the east and 2 feet towards the west. 5 feet being we wanted to provide an accessible entrance into the property. That's why we needed a 5 feet clearance for accessibility purposes. The site plan that's proposed has pavers for on the lot where there's the 5 feet clearance pathway, and the exterior for the building also has a front entrance door that we proposed that's in line with the historical resource committee's comments that we've received. We've addressed all of their comments for 70 Grand Street. We had a meeting, preliminary concept review meeting here as well for 70 Grand Street with the historic review committee, and most of the design implications of the exterior elevation are in tandem with the committee's requirements.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. So on the proposed use, as we had stated, on the second floor, we would have our building management employees. We also have regional employees like Kyle who work out of the Capital District. We have asset managers who are also working out of the Capital District. You can go to the next slide, and to the next. So this is the 108 through 114 site. The site of the awful fire in the spring of last year. And you can go to the next slide. So this is a proposed 108, 114 Grand Street site plan. And so what we're proposing here are 4 townhouses. This is residential townhouse zone. So from the ashes of this fire, we are hoping to put up these townhouses that would be all affordable. Each one would have affordable units in it. And TCB really sees this new construction component as our company reinvesting into the revitalization of this block and of this neighborhood. It represents, I think, a very large and significant investment for the block and the neighborhood. And we are committed to the revitalization of the mansion neighborhood through affordable housing and development. Moreover, when we first started this project, we had these 11 existing historic structures, and we are doubling down on our investment and our commitment to the city of Albany and to the neighborhood. So 108, 114 Grand Street, Niyati, do you want to talk a little bit about our design?
Sure. As Bennett mentioned, the intent was for affordable housing, and initially when we started, we're still in the schematic design phase for this project. So we received comments from the Historic Resource Committee and Development Plan Review Committee as well. So we haven't incorporated all of those in our drawings yet, but I'd like to touch base about those comments. Initially, when we started, our vision was to have these units at the entrance level to be accessible. So we hadn't provided stoops at the exterior to match the elevation of the other buildings. But after we received comments from the Historic Resource Committee and after doing a little more research with the grades, we were able to provide accessible units, and we can provide entrance at the back of the buildings because there's a significant difference in grade, while we keep like the front elevation aesthetic to match that of the adjacent buildings with a stoop and have an entrance door with a transom. So we've incorporated those in our elevations, but they're yet to be incorporated in the plan. We just wanted to make sure we had something to show you guys what we were thinking in terms of our vision. The elevation, the proposed material is again brick veneer with on stud walls, but at the garden level apartments, we are proposing concrete veneer, like cast stone veneer panels. So there's a break between the materials. For the windows, we've increased the size of our windows from what we had proposed previously. These windows closely match the sizes of the adjacent buildings and also what 112 Grand Street was before it burned down. We've added additional stone cornices at the top, the lintels. We've also removed cast stone bands that we had previously breaking at every level. That was one of the comments we received from the Historical Resource Committee, so we've incorporated that in our schematic design. That's the side elevation, and we have the cast stone veneers at the basement wrapping around the building at the side elevation as well, because this can be viewed from Ash Grove Place, so we wanted to make sure that's cohesive with what was there at the front elevation. And at the rear, the windows are different from what's proposed at the front. These are again double hung windows. We wanted to make sure that every bedroom had 2 windows for maximum light into these units. These plans are obviously subject to change based on our new elevation because we're providing a stoop at the front, but this is what was proposed initially. So these are 2-bedroom apartment units, but since we're going to propose an accessible unit at the first floor level, we're only going to be able to provide a 1-bedroom at the first floor. That's a garden level apartment, and then the first and second would have 2-bedroom apartments as shown. So we have living in the front, bedrooms at the back, and kitchen, service spaces, bathrooms all in between.
Alright, next slide. Okay, so
I just wanna note that we're over our 10 minutes now.
okay, so we can wrap it up. So we have been in touch with our own residents and some of the elected officials. I can commit to talking with other groups in the South End. Our project funding sources would be through the state of New York. We would be entering their next housing financing round with 9% credits. 63 units, up to 40 to 60% AMI. Val, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think you guys did a great job and pretty much hit every nail on the head.
So that is the Mansion Initiative. It is a revitalization effort, affordable housing. It is an answer to the lack of affordable and healthy apartments in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Do we want to do questions from the board now? I believe we have one public comment. You wanna do it after public comment?
I think after public comment.
Sky? Sky? Sky is not here. Alright. Victoria? Not here either. We have that in written form. So are there any questions for the board or from the board?
I have a couple.
Have at it.
So you're saying that the buildings that you're either refurbishing, gutting, or building on new construction will be green? Are you looking for LEED certification on those? Like, in what ways would they be green?
So we would be pursuing enterprise green communities, which is a common program for affordable housing. It's basically, it's one of the premier affordable housing green programs. We would also be looking to source from the state of New York Clean Energy Initiative funding, which also has fairly rigorous green standards, the elimination of fossil fuels being one of the biggest ones, and greatly reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
And now you also mentioned your tenant hub where you're going to have laundry services, sounds like a community room, some other services. I'm assuming that's just for the tenants of your buildings, it won't be open to the community as well?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And I'm so, when we're talking about neighborhoods where, you know, primarily parking is street parking, do you have any plans for any parking for your residents now that you're adding, you know, a decent number of apartments to that neighborhood?
We, so we are, yeah, you wanna take the parking? We are providing some parking, though we're not.
So we were looking at zoning guidelines and we're under the number of units that we require to provide parking for every single unit. And we are providing parking though, on one of the lots, between the 4 lots that we were showing. It's right there, that's at the back of these buildings. So we
Okay.
are providing close to.
Is that what the darker black lines are?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
darker black line, so we
Okay.
are providing close to 5 parking spots and most, like one of them will be accessible as well.
And I was writing down questions, so sorry. Like, I'm a little bit taken, and you may not know the answer to this question, but I guess the Albany police asked for some space within. I'm just confused on that, cause their main station is literally a block away. So I just
So
didn't,
the reasoning
2 whole blocks.
The reasoning behind this is that the corner of Grand and Madison has been a hot spot.
Mhm.
And we and our own residents have continuously given us feedback that security is a concern, on the block. So we reached out to Albany Police, they have provided us a letter of interest that they would use the space for community outreach. It's right there on that intersection. So we're hoping that a police presence will be able to assuage the security concerns of our own residents and hopefully the entire block. But I've been in touch with Albany Police Department and they seem like they definitely wanna to use and use the space.
And my last question, maybe, is, you touched on it a little bit with your tenants. Have you spoken to the neighbors about your plans and basically, you know, my overall question is like, are you a good neighbor? Does the neighborhood welcome what you're doing? And, you know, the tenants that are in the apartments currently, that you can currently own?
Yes, thank you for the question. And we are obviously committed to the neighborhood and commitment is both in we wanna do affordable housing and make it deeply affordable. We've also had numerous talks with some of our neighbors. Kyle, you've been in touch with the Grand Street Arts, our neighbors on 68 Grand
Yep, 68 grand, we're in contact with Tayshawn.
with Tayshawn.
Also neighbor on the other side, 70 grand, he's a new owner, good relationship with them. We've been in touch with Trinity also.
Yeah, so we have been in touch with the Trinity Alliance as well. We are exploring a possible partnership where they would do either renovate their current headquarters or build new headquarters. And they would go in with us to the state of New York for financing. Still exploring it. We've been in touch with the local council member too, Derek Johnson.
Jared?
Yeah.
Those were my questions.
Morning, Rachel. Okay.
So Lisa got 2 of my questions.
I know, that's mine too. So I-
They're out. And I do have a question about one of the public comments that was submitted. A concern was voiced that community builders owned 112 Grand Street and it was left vacant and neglected, and that contributed to the extent of the fire that occurred. And I just wondered if you could speak to what the practices are in terms of maintaining, once you've developed something, maintaining it, making sure that things stay occupied and up to code and not presenting further potential hazard or disinvestment and things of that nature.
The fire obviously was a tragedy, it was regrettable. We don't know the source of the fire, I don't believe it was ever established by the fire department. TCV is committed to the neighborhood, and we do hold some vacant buildings. They're boarded up and secured. We do have people, and Kyle can attest to this, who have tried to get in. We've been in communication with the police when they do get in to have them out. We've been in touch with some of the neighbors. We welcome them to be in touch with us if they see activity there. But we do secure the buildings, we board them up, and we do our best to keep people out. Obviously, we're still waiting on financing from the state of New York. That's how the affordable housing will get built, and once the financing comes in, we'll renovate everything. But we are, very much concerned. We wanna, if people on the block see or hear something, we wanna know.
We also just add to that, we have a contractor who's on site once a week, and he makes sure the buildings are boarded up, and he takes trash out when there's couches dumped every other week or something. So he's our eyes and ears on the site as well as myself.
And our building management, and our tenants.
I would also like to add that the proposed buildings now have sprinkler systems. Even 70 Grand Street, we were not required to have a sprinkler system per code, but we are providing a sprinkler system in the building. This is a way of PCD being proactive after the fire that took place last year.
Good to hear. I think I would just echo, Julissa asked the question, I would just say, just being really communicative with the neighbors and making sure that, as things are developing and changing, I know one of the public comments specifically mentioned, being a community that's been historically marginalized in a number of different ways, just making sure as we're reinvesting and developing that the interests of folks who are already living there are being well considered and represented as you're looking to also serve the interests and needs of folks who are actually going to be your tenants.
I didn't I'll take some questions now. They mentioned letters in support from Assemblyman Fahey and Councilmember Johnson. I don't know if I missed those in the files, but
I
have those been? Please submit those. Can you tell me, I'm not a materials specialist, but I think I know what conjures in my mind's eye when you say brick facade. So it's not the full brick, it's the cut down brick and it's attached.
That's correct. So it's the brick veneer and it's not a full brick and it gets attached to the stud walls.
Now how does that match up with the rest of the neighborhood?
So the rest of the neighborhoods, obviously, they were built in the 1800s. They're full brick masonry wall built construction, and the brick veneer that we're proposing is essentially looks like brick, although it's not masonry construction. The exterior looks like brick, like the picture that's on the top left. And that is what we were trying to provide brick veneer on the exterior so that the exterior walls match with the rest of the facades of the buildings.
You know the houses on on Pearl Street, right across from the African American Cultural Center?
The ones where all the brick veneer.
That part, yeah, that's exactly it. That's brick veneer.
Where?
Same stuff.
I'm familiar with this neighborhood. Familiar with a house built in 1852 with brick. So almost coming up on 200 years. So in another 200 years, when it's brick veneer, how will that compare? Do we know? I mean, if we're talking about the character of neighborhoods, obviously this neighborhood has been extremely durable in a city that's really old. So curious as to how what you're proposing would hold up in the test of time to a neighborhood that's essentially going towards 200 years old.
Right. Obviously, like, I can't talk about 200 years from now, but brick veneer is a very durable material. We've used that in our projects, and it's one of the most used materials, even for historic construction right now. because of the anticipatory costs of construction with using full wide brick walls for construction versus using brick veneer. So I would say that it is a very durable material. I cannot attest to the durability of it for 200 years from now on, but I would definitely say that for the next 50 years, it would hold up pretty well.
You mentioned, or at least here in our notes, it says that the project would target folks with AMI between 40% to 60%. What is the AMI?
Area medium
I
income.
know what it is, but I mean, what is the number?
So it would, let me give you, I'll have to follow up with you after this meeting, to give you the precise, income, the precise numbers.
And how is it calculated in this case? Is it the capital region area median
So
income?
HUD, yeah,
Is
HUD,
it-
HUD
Oh, you
publishes,
must have numbers.
yes.
And how often does that change?
Once a year.
So would somewhat capture inflationary sorts of things?
Yes, it
or
would,
not?
yes.
That's it for me. Thank you.
So we have a board member who's not present, but she was able to review the presentation and the project notes and had some comments. Some of them have been spoken, but I'll say it for the record. For 70 Grand Street, the question was, has there been engagement with the community? Have you solicited neighborhood feedback regarding the project? This is a busy street neighborhood. Has their consideration been given to the staging plan during construction time and accommodation for multimodal transit during that time? If you wanted to answer as we go forward.
Okay, so in terms of construction, so they want to know in terms of like the flow of traffic?
The flow of traffic, how are you gonna stage materials?
Cal, do you have any thoughts? Sort of what
Because it's a
maybe we've
very-
done?
Yeah,
Tight.
Yeah,
I guess we haven't gotten that far into the detail project, to be honest with you,
Okay.
but I hear the concern. This is not something new to the construction process, so certainly we wouldn't try and block off the street for more than a day at a time for delivery. Just as you're talking, I'm picturing it back behind my mind that there's a site directly behind this site. That's making a lot of, we could probably work with that member to stage some materials there.
Right.
We're gonna wait until 114 lot, there's plenty of room down there. Likely when we build 70 grand, there'll be some staging down at the end of the block there.
so we also have other lots that we're keeping as a land, we also stage as well.
Okay.
Stage materials and store materials.
And there is an understanding that new updated documents will be submitted, so some of this would be answered that, but as you prepare those, perhaps keep those questions in mind. She wanted to know when do you see yourself breaking ground and how is the project phased?
So we will go into the ACR's, the state of New York's financing round. If we get allocation on our first round, I would hope by this time next year to be breaking ground.
And there's a radio tower right there. And it seems by the surveys that were submitted that this was on the parcel behind you. Are there any easement agreements in place or are being discussed for access and maintenance of that tower that exists?
I could take it, yes, sort of. We've been talking with 68 Grand Street there, and they have a master plan term. I think that's a ham radio, and they wanna build a classroom back there to teach kids how to use radio equipment and that radio station as well. So what Nina talked about earlier is we have a 5-foot sidewalk between our building and theirs. I don't think we have anything formally drafted up, but the idea is that if they wanna create an entrance somewhere behind that radio station, certainly split that space to make it ADA accessible, so if they would ever use that in the future, they would have access to it.
And some of it has been talked about, but how does construction affect the neighbors? Are there any agreements in place with the neighbors addressing access and or damage if there was any to occur during construction? Is there a plan to, in place to protect those buildings? Like there's the, light wells for the church. That was sort of my question.
So we have not chosen a contractor yet, but any contractor that is chosen will abide by buildings department's safety protocols and procedures. And Kyle, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, just as a precedent, when this building was taken down, it was taken down by the city of Albany about a year or so ago. And there was damage when it was taken down to the 72 building here. Mohammed is the owner, and he was pretty concerned. I don't know if you can see it in this picture.
Yeah, that's right.
This is before the repairs, yeah, you can see there's a little bit of damage there. And Mohammed expressed some concerns of having us repair that damage, and we work with the city of Albany with Detoner Brothers, the contractor. If you go and look at that house now, all the damage has been fixed. Mohammed is very excited for the project to keep moving forward. That's the precedent that we set, and obviously we're not trying to create any damage, but if it does happen, certainly we'll fix it just like we did for Mohammed.
Also, like, we understand this is more of a means and methods discussion during construction, but we can add these notes to our drawings as well in our construction documents about like being vigilant about the facades of the adjacent buildings and just being careful about it.
One further point, the city of Albany also did an emergency demo and cleanup of 108, 110, 112, and 114. And billed the owners, and we have paid off the 114 with our purchase, so that the city of Albany was made whole there with its demolition cost, and the check's in the mail for 112.
And then the elevation plans as they are submitted should be contextual and include neighboring buildings and heights for context as well. These are, the next comments are more for 108 and 114. Again, the elevations, once they're submitted, if you could provide front, rear elevation, especially in context with the ADA accessible ramp that has been proposed, with a little more detail.
Sure, also just to clarify, we do not have a ramp at the rear for 108 to 114 because of the change in the grade. We
Okay.
are able to have access at the back, so we only need one ADA unit, and we will be proposing that at 114 Grand Street at the garden level apartment, so we will just provide an entrance at the back.
Okay, and just the floor plans and the elevations, if they could be as detailed as possible.
Right.
Addressing the ingress egress, there should be at least 2 points of ingress and egress, especially for the ADA accessibility. And what energy code compliance is being followed? Have you picked one and will that follow through?
Yeah, we're following 2020 energy code, but we're also going to be 20% better than the 2020 energy code because of the green energy initiative that TCB intends to apply for the HCR funding round. So the insulation that we'll be providing in the walls will be much more. Also at the roof, the values would be higher because we have to follow the requirements for the green energy.
The Clean Energy Initiative from the state of New York. Moreover, we are also looking into rooftop solar, so we successfully got a grant from NYSERDA to explore the feasibility of solar, as much rooftop solar as we can support.
That's it for her comments. Anna, you didn't have anything from Shadi in addition to from Shadi's comments.
Alright,
Thank you.
anything from you?
Sorry. I forgot I had that.
So just reiterating that for 70 Grand Street, it's a minor DPR, so the site plan itself will actually be reviewed on an administrative level. But because the seeker is done as a whole, that won't be approved until after, obviously, the planning board has taken action on seeker. But given the use, it does require a conditional use permit, which has approved by the planning board, so it's a little bit of a piecemeal for 70 Grand Street. Obviously it's in the HRO, as Anthony spoke to, there are, revisions that need to be made, that need to, obviously mesh with the, rendering versus the site plans versus the floor plans, that obviously need to go through both the planning board and the HRC, so hopefully working in tandem with, the HRC on that review. I think we also need to just confirm the impervious lot coverage for 70, Grand Street. It is only 70% there, so we might need to take a closer look at that. I know there's pervious chambers there, so we can kind of look at the site statistics when you get that together. The USDO would require one street tree out front, and I think we just need to confirm the sidewalk condition as well. As I mentioned, the seeker review will be for the project as a whole, as well as the Albany County Planning Board review. And we've held off on distributing the plans for departmental review just until we get a full set of revised plans, just so it's a little bit less piecemeal for the review. For 108 and 108, 110, 112, and 114, again, they're in the HRO. As we saw, there's a little bit of discrepancy from what we've received as far as submission compared to what's in the PowerPoint, so we just need to kind of, rectify what's there. And start addressing some of the comments as far as the exterior, and pay closer attention to the 114 Grand Street, given that it's on the corner and has two front facades. So the front setback along Ash Grove does exceed the allowable setback, so either that needs to be revised or an area variance will need to be sought, which I think we discussed before, bringing that up to the property line. Again, the RT has a slightly higher impervious lot coverage at 80%. So if we put the site statistics table together for existing proposed, we can take a closer look at that. 4 street trees total will be required, 2 along Grand, 2 along Ash Grove. And again, I don't know the condition of the sidewalks given the demolition that occurred. There might be some damage, again with the construction as well. And then I think given that you've talked about both the 3-foot wide city-owned parcel that's between 108 through 114, and then that chunk that you talked about putting parking between, I think you need to confirm what you're planning there, because you can't have parking separated from, as a primary use. So if you're planning to combine those parcels, that needs to be shown at this stage now. So if that's going to be planned as a whole, that should be shown at this stage. So I think obviously it'd be helpful to show that that parking is for those townhouses, and that could help with the overall site statistics as well. So I think just some overall improvements to the submission, and then we can circulate it to the departments and start getting it back for comments.
I have a quick question. Once we make our updates to our plans, do we need to submit a revised seeker, or can the seeker remain the same that we submitted previously?
I wouldn't expect any changes, right? I mean,
No, the only thing is that, because we're exceeding the lot coverage for 108 through 114, we're planning on cutting 4 feet at the back of the buildings. But I don't think that should impact the seeker in any way, so.
No, that would just be part of the application, so the seeker aspect, no. The seeker would only be if there's any other funding sources that you would know of, because we're, referencing that out to like your funding sources.
Yeah, let me check the slide, but I think it's stated in New York, it's a lot of tax credits.
Right, so that's mainly what we're coordinating with.
Sounds good.
We are up for Albany County ARPA, we haven't gotten yes or no, I don't know where that stands.
Yeah, we are coordinating with the Albany County Planning Board, so just as a referral, because it's within 500 feet of state or county highway, but also just as a Albany County referral for seeker itself too. So they'll get notification twice.
Moreover, with that city-owned sliver of land, we are interested in engaging the city about taking ownership.
Yeah, so you've already submitted the paperwork that would have to be approved for the common council,
Okay.
and the corporation council, office.
Uh-huh.
But that can, if it's included in the site plan and that's what's approved, then that can happen really after the fact, that this is all done.
Okay.
That can kind of happen.
Alright.
Kind of in conjunction or after the fact.
Sure. Alright, good. So you're confirming that seeker is now open, and that you're,
We're recommending that the
great.
planning board take action
okay.
as a staff.
Well, we see on the screen board, so is there anyone that will give a motion to declare planning board to act as a lead agency for purposes of secret?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Alright, our final item of the night is 280 Mount Hope Drive. Development plan review, project number 00559. Description. Conversion of 3 existing single-story buildings totaling 805,680 square feet to a self-storage space and construction of 10 additional new buildings varying in size from 2,000 square feet to 2,400 square feet, totaling 30,200 square feet. Hirschberg and Hirschberg. Mr. Hirschberg, you wanna walk us through this again?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you want to go to the next slide, I think this shows the area where we are. There's a site that was that we combined 2 other parcels to make it into a single parcel, which is we're calling 280 Mount Hope Drive. Next is, this is the site plan. The orange colored buildings to the right are all 1-story storage buildings. They don't have any sewer or water to them. They will have electricity to them so that they can, lights inside the units. The pavement around is accessible so that people can drive up to them, open, go into those units and leave their items there and pick their items up. On the left, there are 3 white buildings. Those are the existing buildings that used to hold the tennis,
Club,
there were a lot of tennis courts there. I played there, believe it or not, 45 years ago. So it's been around for a long time. And I don't play tennis now, obviously. I don't get around the court very easily. But meanwhile, those buildings are going to be converted to climate-controlled self-storage. And there's a little strip of at the north end of the one larger building, which will have some units on it which are not climate-controlled storage space. But all those spaces will be rented for people to use. Most people know that self-storage is probably the lowest generator of traffic. People won't come and visit their stuff every day. They quite often they put it in and don't come back for months and months to take anything out. So the traffic generation from a site like this is very minimal. Sewer and water use are significantly less than was used before when it was a tennis court. There'll be 1 or possibly 2 employees there. I say there might be 2 shifts of employees there. A single employee can handle this entire site since there's very little activity going on. The site will be secured, be fenced in, go in with a fob through the door to get there, or you park outside, go in and talk to the employee, and he can sign you in and get you a new fob, however you have to make your arrangements for a facility. These are needed primarily because people are moving into apartments and they need a place to put their stuff, and that's why so many self-storage places have been built recently, and all of them are doing quite well. Next, if you wanna go to the next plan, this is a site plan that shows the contours and details of it. In the lower right-hand corner are two basins. That's a sedimentation basin and a bioretention basin. And sized in accordance with the city standards, and we think that they're suitable. We just got a review letter, I think we got it in the email yesterday or today from Department of Water and Water Supply. They want us to refine some of the computations of that, but it won't impact the size of that very significantly at all. And a couple other comments, and we concur with all the other comments. The comment letter had most of the letters said our previous comment was satisfied. We also received just today, a letter from New York State Parks Recreation and Historic Preservation that this project had no impact on any historical properties. So I can leave that to be part of the record. I don't know if the planning office got a copy of it, but the next one shows, this is a site lighting plan. There'll be lighting to light those facilities. Primarily, there'll be wall-mounted lights. The lights will be controlled by activity. There will be some security lights on it, but they'll be off unless somebody pulls up to a building, and they'll go off automatically when somebody pulls up. The other buildings will be lit inside, obviously, and will be lit at night so people can access their units. Next, we have a existing landscape in the view. The foliage on the right side is screening us from where the park is. You can see the Mountain Hope Park is on the right area, the clear area, and the other dwellings are on Mountain Hope Drive. We actually did a tree survey. I don't know whether you have the tree survey as part of our submission. We had Northeastern Environmental Services go out there and identify all the trees. All the trees that are not impacted by the building location will be preserved. And when we get there, we intend to install some additional foliage, additional landscaping items. We'll plant additional trees internal to that. That's primarily deciduous trees. So during the winter, it doesn't get very much screening. We intend to add a significant number of pines and a couple firs and that sort of material in there. That will give us the screening that we need. We also show a landscaping plan around the building and some trees that were requested along the street frontage. I think there are a couple of views of the building. Here are, if you go back, that's what the buildings look like. They have flat roofs, so they're not, they're not very tall. Is it 14 feet? Is that what they are?
Under 10.
Oh, under 10. 10 feet tall. They're even shorter than I thought. But they all have the overhead doors on them so people access their units, and they're quite plain Jane, but they're also don't have very many offensive features to them because they're not visible from many places. The next one shows, we have another plan that shows.
That is the last slide.
Okay, I thought we had another one with a close-up of the view of the buildings. But essentially, this is the same project that we presented to you previously. We've done the technical end of it. We've handled sewer and water questions. Primarily, the sewer question is not a significant question because we have less sewer in the building, less sewer used to have in the building. We do have to provide separate laterals to the three buildings as per the request of the water department. We also have to provide three separate water services for the building, to the three separate buildings, because even though they're interconnected, the water department considers them three separate buildings, so we have to have three water meters, one water meter in each building. But despite those are about the only major change we had to make in the plan as a result of the comments. Prepared to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments, no written. Any questions from the board?
I just have one about if you go back to the site plan, I'm curious as to how the shape of the driveways were arrived at parking areas.
This is the front drive over.
Yeah, how do you get access to the two
Well,
buildings on the left?
that front area is actually the existing paved area. We just left it alone. The number of parking spots out there well exceeds the number of parking spots we'll need for this. You know, normally on a site like this, you would allow for up to 6 parking spots due to the volume of the units. But the chances of having more than 6 people there at the same time going into one of those enclosed units is minimal. And they'll be able to drive up to their units around the side, so don't need any parking to walk into those. So that was a fact of the existing pavement.
Thank you.
Are there any plans to have any truck rentals out of the site, so out of the storage? facility?
Any-
Truck rentals,
uh,
so, you know, moving trucks,
I
things of
don't,
that nature.
I don't think so. There's
No truck.
It's strictly the storage units.
Tractor storage, okay.
Although, like most storage units, they will have available packing boxes and stuff like that for purchase, so the one retail use of it will be that.
Answered my questions.
Staff?
I just wanted to point out again, as Dan mentioned, that it does have a pretty low traffic impact. As Dan mentioned too, we've been going back and forth quite a bit with Bill and Frici from Hirschberg and Hertzberg. There's been a number of adjustments since they last were here in May. And since then, they've adjusted the site plan to no longer have any waivers requested. They've added sidewalk, they've added curb as requested from DGS. A number of landscaping along the front. As Dan mentioned, there is an outstanding water department comment regarding the SWIP and maybe some minor adjustments to the stormwater basin, but DGS and engineering have provided final sign off. I did want to mention that we were made aware that there was a meeting, I believe this morning, with a community member or group of community members. I didn't know if Dan was aware of that or if there was a representative of the project itself, if they could maybe speak to that at all.
I wasn't aware of it. Were you aware of it?
I was aware of it. I did not attend. The owner, Steve Cullinan, he's working with the Mount Hope Neighborhood Association on a community benefits agreement. So the way that I understand it is, we've been working with the neighborhood association since I think October, November of last year. All of our communications have been positive. So that they spoke about an annual donation to the neighborhood association to use as they see it. Screening, which we've been working through and is incorporated into our plans to shield as best that we can the storage facility. And there was one other item too. Bill, what was the one last item? It was the annual donation, screening, colors.
Yes.
We've been working with the neighborhood association on colors and getting their input on what would be least disruptive or blend in with the area.
So just wanted to say for the record that, you know, if there were additional landscaping added to the site plan, obviously, you know, we expect an additional revision to the site plan for the stormwater, but that would be kind of the only thing that would be under the purview for the planning board to stamp off on would be the landscaping plan, the stamp, but it obviously meets the
It's the normal type of final comments you'll get from the Department of Water Supply. Always a few items that are left to be completed, and the letter was quite positive with regard to most of the items, and the one question was on this, could we review the computation of the sites of the bioretention basin portion of our system, which we would do.
The last community benefit was to offer the Mount Hope neighborhood a discounted on storage rental.
Nothing that I have to show on my civil engineering plans.
So I just wanted to say it for the record, that's obviously not in the planning board purview, but just to be made aware that those conversations were happening. So that's all we had for staff notes, and we recommend approval with condition prior to issuance of building permit that final approval is gained from the water department.
We have before us our motion.
So moved.
It's been moved by Glenissa and seconded by the entire board to approve the development plan review, DPR number 0216 with the following condition. Prior to the issuance of the building permit, final approval shall be obtained from the Department of Water and Water Supply. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously, thank you.
Thank you.
Board, is there any further business? No. Hearing
Answer your
none,
own question.
hearing none, is there a motion to,
Took too long.
without objection, this meeting is adjourned.
Haven't seen Brandon around in a while.